Story 1. I'm being stalked by a skinwalker. This all happened about 1 month ago. At first, I thought this was all just a coincidence, but as I said, this has been happening for just over a month, so I don't think it's just a coincidentally series of unfortunate events anymore. If there's anyone out there who's reading this and able to tell me if it's a skinwalker or something else, please reach out to me and tell me. My 1-year-old rat at the time had died. It was my first pet, so I was obviously gutted, but it was almost at the end of its time, so I had expected it. My rat was big, and I mean big, like the size of an adult Chihuahua dog big. As I said, it was my first pet, so I didn't know that it wasn't normal, but that was the only weird thing about it. It made a dog howling noise instead of a rat squeak. I laughed at it at the time, but now I feel dumb for laughing at it all and not jumping to conclusions. And sometimes it would just stand there on its back 2 legs, and that's normal. Especially because I had a Curiosus rat, one of the many different rat types. But not the way he would do it. He would stand there for hours, just watching and howling time to time. When it died, my mother weirdly insisted on showing me the body, but I didn't really care, so I wasn't really that bothered by it. I like going on walks with my friend, because we both have the same humor, so we make each other laugh a lot. We walked for a bit, noticed the deer was following us. We tried to get it to come towards us. Come here, whilst rubbing our thumb on our index fingers. Surprisingly, it walked right up to us. We got a picture with it, and then we were on our way. About 15 minutes later, we saw the same deer galloping like a horse, but the weird thing, it was on its back 2 legs. We burst out laughing, of course. No one would believe us, so we didn't tell anybody and just went on with our lives. 1 week ago, I came to where I am now, in a hotel, where they do live acts at the pub. Both exit and entrance of the hallway are outdoors, so it would be completely normal for dogs or cats to walk in a seemingly endless hallway. I was just coming out of the pub when I saw a middle-aged, obese woman loudly mumbling, Waiter, someone, please help me. She said, Ma, I was only able to get out half a syllable before I stopped and gasped as her head turned 180 degrees with one crack of her neck. As I quickly ran around the corner, starfish on the wall and everything. Once I turned the corner, her feet were dragging along the ground. It was like an invisible entity was dragging her down the hallway. I hid around the corner for about 5 minutes before running into my room, where I went straight to sleep. I woke up that night to animal moaning and scratching at the front door. That was the last night, and I'm going hunting for monstrosities on the 23rd of July, and I can't wait to get this thing off my tail. I'll update you all soon. Goodbye, and thanks for listening. Story 2. I think I just encountered a skinwalker. If you don't know what that means, I suggest you leave and look it up now. They are demonic creatures who steal the skin of people or animals. They usually live in forests or mountain areas. So basically, my friend was near a park with a field, and for some reason we decided to go down to the park in the late evening. As we walked in, my friend said she felt like we were being watched. I'm a very paranoid person, so I'm very freaked out about all of this. When we got in the park, we noticed a woman just sitting in the field next to us. My friend said she thought the woman was acting abnormal, but we just brushed it off. 20 minutes later, it's almost completely dark. As we're about to leave the park, the woman gets up and walks past us, and my friend swears she saw the woman as a big black and white creature walking on all fours. But when we turned around, she looked like a human again. As soon as she got past us, she completely disappeared. There's something about skinwalkers, is that they can run super fast, like 200 times fast than humans. I read up on cryptids and stuff, so I already know a lot about them. By this time, me and my friends were terrified, so we walk out of the park, all the way home. We are hearing strange noises and footsteps. I am sitting inside, and all the doors are locked. All the way home, we are hearing strange noises and footsteps. I'm sitting inside, all the doors locked. All, and I mean all the things I've read about them say you should never say the name out loud, especially if it's dark, because that's attracts them to you. We were talking about them out loud. If anyone has any advice, please tell me what to do. Story 3. I was in prison for 15 years. There's a skinwalker in there with us. A little background first. I was serving a 15-year sentence in a penitentiary in southern Arizona. What was I in there for? Isn't important. During my stay there were countless things that happened that no one could explain, and even more that no one wanted to know more about. It all started with a prison legend. Supposedly, years ago, something awful and unexplainable happened in the prison. Every morning we'd be woken up and expected to stand near the front of our cells, while guards visually confirmed we are present and accounted for. Apparently, about a year before I got sent here, the most brutal and unexplained thing happened during one of these routines. A man who had a cell to himself looked very off during his check. When a guard pulled over with another guard to help him check it out, they found it wasn't actually the prisoner they were expecting at all. It was a totally different man. This man was wearing the skin of another man over him, loosely fitting, draped over him. Apparently looked like a real monster. The scariest things were, though, the guy that was wearing the skin was not inanimate. They had no idea how he even got into the prison, let alone a cell. What's the worst that they could even figure out? Who the hell was he? He wasn't documented anywhere. And what's worse was than that, they never even found the body of the man of the skin he was wearing. Pretty grisly stuff, I know. And I realize that's not the go-to definition of a skinwalker. But that's what the prisoner called him. The skinwalker. Didn't help that the guy never talked, apparently. Anyway, that's what started the whole skinwalker superstition over the yard. Apparently, the guy got shipped to a different spot about a month after it happened. And just everybody in the Gen Pop felt all the better for it. I heard about the story on the second day of my stay. Hell of a story to hear to place in your home for your foreseeable future. Now onto the real shit though. Sure, the guy was the skinwalker. All he did in the long run was get an older life Nahio inmate to tell everyone about actual skinwalkers. It seemed like a lot of prison culture actually revolved around them. Now apparently skinwalkers are tricky to point out on the spot, but if you manage to survive around one for more than a minute or two, almost everyone can tell the mannerisms are all off. They can mimic human speech, but not replicate it. They twitch maniacally. They have an unnatural gait while walking. But apparently they got better with experience. The old Nahio guy, his name was Carl, said he was sure there was an actual one among the prisoners, slowly picking us off over the years. He called it the Grandmaster Skinwalker. At one point, apparently, he thought it had human mannerisms down so well that you might not even be able to tell if it was your cellmate for a day or two. It had to be good, he positioned one night. He would expect a skinwalker to jump at any opportunity for a kill. But this one realized it had been a revolving door of people to kill coming to it. And he masterfully bided its time. as Carl thought for years. A lot of guys found humor in it. A lot more were really on edge about it. Every once in a while in the prisons, people snap. Sometimes you'll find your cellmate swinging in the front of your bunk, strung up around the neck by his pant leg. Sometimes you just can't take it anymore. But in our yard, people tended to snap in a very special way. It wouldn't be an outburst at dinner or a silent suicide in the night. Guys would just stop talking, hunch over, and shuffle around. Any friendships they had were mostly out the window. They would turn into a loner during rec time. They would let their hair hang in front of their face. No one liked it or talked about it. Like if they did, it would happen to them next. I felt the same way. I didn't know if it was a skinwalker or just people going crazy, but I don't want to find out. It wasn't clockwork or anything, but every time someone snapped, it was more than a couple weeks before they were shipped off or transferred to God knows where without anyone else knowing beforehand. Then there was the nighttime occurrences. Short, loud bursts of sound echoed through my cell block during all hours, on the night of a regular basis. It sounded like a mix between a pig dying and nails on chalkboard. Just another thing no one liked to talk about. Even scarier were the shadows and footsteps. The block was dimly illuminated in the night by a few lights hanging from the ceiling outside my cell. I saw shadows flit across my walls on a regular occasion when there were definitely no guards near my cell. One time near the end of my sentence, I woke up, looked at my back wall, and found a perfect silhouette of a person standing there. But when I looked, my bunkmate was asleep, and no one was outside my cell. And the footsteps, everyone hated the fucking footsteps. They were the scariest part. In the night, more than rarely the shadows you would hear from the ungodly fast footsteps. They sounded like wet feet slapping on the tile floor. Whatever caused them would fly from one end of the block to the other in a dead sprint. Whatever it was inhumanely fast. If you happened to be awake before it started, by the time you heard the footsteps on one side of the cell and whipped your head around to see what the thing was while it runs by, it sounded like it was 3 cells past you. Everyone hated the footsteps. I agreed. I thought they were the worst. I was released from that place about a month ago. I have more stories than I can count. I swear. It was nearly my turn. About a week before I was discharged, my cellmate and a good friend of mine snapped. In the same kind of way. I didn't sleep for an entire week. Well, I did sleep, of course, but never more for a few minutes at a time. Never turned my back on the guy. Scariest thing, I woke up one night to him somehow shaking his body through the bars of his cell. For reference, I couldn't get anything past my shoulders through him. The worst part, though, he was coming back into our cell. On the day of my release, I didn't say a word to him. Just left. He seemed fine with it, so was I. I had made it through 15 years of prison fights, gang disputes, and for all I know, skinwalker abductions. I left through the front gates, a free man. As I walked along the fence for the rec yard, I spotted my cellmate, staying off on his own, like he had for the last week or so. I shook my head, not even really sure it was him anymore. Anyway, I took one last look over the yard, this time from the other side of the fence. I wish I hadn't. There, standing off on his own, on the other side of the yard was Carl, slouched over, eyeing the other inmates, and twitching maniacally. Story 4. I think my husband is a skinwalker, and here's the horrifying reason why. I think my husband is a skinwalker, and here's the horrifying reason why. For clarification, my husband and I have been married for a while. We are high school sweethearts and know each other left, right, and center. whether it comes to our latte orders or when we're having a bad day, down to literal thoughts. My husband, Henry, is very quiet and charismatic. He practically lives by the motto, if you have nothing intelligent to say, then don't say anything at all. His father used to continuously tell him that while growing up, and he learned to be quiet and listen, observe. Even with me, he is very quiet. I don't mind it, to be frank. I myself was the nerdy type of girl in school, straight A's and shy, never talking to anyone until I met Harry. He understood me when I didn't even know what words to use. Our love language is acts of service without even having to ask to. Usually our day goes like this. He goes to work. While he's at work, I clean the house, buy groceries, and walk our dog. A mini labradoodle to the park near our block. Come home, start on supper. He usually comes home around 4ish. He greets me in the kitchen, silently with a kiss. I hug him and continue, and we eat in quiet. It's quite nice, actually. That's what frightened me the other night. I finished walking the dog and started on our supper. Henry was locked in the house, louder than usual. His footsteps seemed more rushed and heavier than usual. He's about 6 foot and is more lean. He typically walks more softly, like he's trying to be silent. But today, he seemingly came stomping into the house with heavy footsteps. I poked my head around the corner of the kitchen, and he was walking up the stairs, almost like he was in pain, yet he was not wincing. "Hello, darling. How's your day?" he said, with a huge grin, not how he normally would. I gave him a bit of a frown, because he was acting strange, like he was relearning to speak to me, like he was having trouble acting normal. "Hello," I said, turning back to the kitchen, thinking he was acting strange. But who knows? He walked up 4 big steps away from me, and stood there, still in a suit and tie, briefcase in hand, smiling that eerie smile. That wasn't Henry's smile. I was trying to focus on dinner. I was plating, trying not to look at him, showing his physical signs that I was uncomfortable, which he usually would have picked up, but for some reason he didn't this time. "Go wash up, dear. You can't be wearing your work clothes at dinner," I said quietly. "That's darling," he said, smiling wider somehow, like his face was stretching in inhumane ways. That's not my husband. Henry and I may not speak much, but when we did, we set boundaries. When we were on a few dates, he told me he was uncomfortable with pet names, that they just sounded dumb. He told me I could call him whatever, but not to call him dear. His mother, now deceased, used to be absolutely terrible to him when he was younger, which I'm not going to get into detail. But if you're thinking about it, it most likely happened. He told me about it. It hurt so much. Salt in the wound, open it back up when you heard the phrase. Back in that big brown house where everybody was drunk and yelling. I'd called him dear to see if he would have a slight reaction, and he did not move a muscle. That's not my husband. That isn't my Harry. I started to sweat, wondering what it could mean. I was going to test it once more while we were eating to see if it really was. I didn't know what I was going to do, because if it were to call the cops, someone who looks just like my husband is trying to impersonate him? No, that's silly. I set up the table, shaking, a bit, knowing something was terribly wrong. He was making noise. "Dear, are you coming, dear?" "Dinner's ready." I said my best to calm myself down. "Yes, darling, I'm coming," he replied instantly, walking into the room as if he was lurking in the shadows. We both sat down and started picking away at our plates. When I smiled, "Henry, I was just thinking, we could go visit your mother. It's been a while." "That sounds wonderful. Anytime soon." I swallowed hard. She died last spring. "Yes, I was thinking next week." I smiled, keeping my act together. "Amazing. Thank you." He's like Cosby and the warm smile my husband used to give to me, but this one didn't reach his eyes. After I cleaned up supper and Henry was told to get in the shower, I started digging through his side drawer, found a leather notebook, and quickly opened it reading. It was almost like a diary. The latest entry reading, I don't know if I want to get back home after this time. Going to the forest is too fucking risky. I need to get everything sorted out before my parents land. Before they get to us. Before it mimics me. Or worse, hurts my beloved. My stomach drops into my feet. And my legs start to become jello. I was right. That wasn't my husband. As soon as my mind snapped back to reality, the shower stopped. I heard whatever was mimicking my husband thrash around the bathroom. I quickly locked the door to our bedroom, and I've been here for about an hour and a half. It's begging me and trying different voices, crying, sobbing, begging, and screaming. I don't know how much longer I can last. Please, someone, if you're reading this, come and save me before it's too late. Story 5. A true story from my childhood that made me believe in skinwalkers. A lot of strange happened to me when I was just a boy, but this is the weirdest. I was 11 at the time, and it was past midnight, 12:30 to be exact. My parents were asleep, but my cousin, who was 18 at the time, was still up. I had to take out the trash, so I brought my dog Barry with me. He was mostly black, but had a few white spots, always alert, and always by my side. The trash can was only a 30-second walk from the front door. I tossed the bag in and then turned around and called for Barry. But there was nothing. No footsteps, tags jingling, just silence. I turned on my flashlight and looked around. He wasn't there. Confused, I started walking back towards the house. That's when I heard it. Heavy, fast, pounding footsteps coming up behind me. I looked around and saw something I'll never forget. Charging on me was something completely black, darker than the night around it. It absorbed light itself. A massive black figure running straight at me. It wasn't a dog, or a pig, or a horse. But somehow it looked like all three. Its body was wrong. Just wrong. Its movement was too fast, too heavy. It made no sound except for the thunder of its steps. No matter how fast I ran, it always felt like it was 2 steps behind me. This feeling of dread instantly shot through me as I sprinted to the door, heart racing, flung it open, and slammed it shut behind me. I sat there on the floor, gasping, trying to process what just happened, and then it hit me. Oh shit, Barry outside. I started to cry, thinking what was happening, what thing I could do to my innocent dog. I was scared to death, but I couldn't leave him out there. So I stood up, ready to go back out to find him, heart racing, until Barry came walking toward me from his kennel inside the house. Inside. Calm and normal. He'd never left the house. He was inside the whole time. After I got out there, it wasn't a dog. Story 6. I think I met a skinwalker. Growing up in Arizona, myths and legends are a part of life. Native traditions, mystique places, vortexes, UFO abductions, and dozens of other stories of the unknown that I always found fascinating. I grew up spending a lot of time wandering around the desert and the mountains, hunting, camping, etc. So I felt very at home in the wilderness. One late spring day, on one of my many hiking adventures, I wandered off trail, and after 7 hours, I came upon a small group of mud abode houses. A few people heard me coming and came out of the houses to investigate. and after apparently making the collective decision that I was not a threat, one of the elders dressed me in an old-style traditional native clothing and a headdress came over to greet me. The man spoke slowly and told me that I'd wandered onto a Nahio reservation and asked me if I was lost or if I needed help. When I told him no, I was lost but intentionally, he chuckled and invited me over to eat with his family. The next several hours were one of a great experience in my life. The whole thing was like being thrown back in time. While we ate and talked, others from the surrounding houses began to come over and join us. I got the feeling that they didn't get many outsiders. We shared stories for hours about life, their family, their history, and in the area, and the time spent in the wild. And the longer we talked, the more they opened up, and the more interesting the elder stories got. Throughout the time, there was one man who never spoke. He sat out of the circle, listening and watching me. At one point, I told them what I did called my walkabouts. Every year, around September, where I would go out by myself into the wilderness for 2 to 4 weeks at a time. This got the attention of the silent man. When I finished, he came over to the circle around the fire, sat directly on the ground in front of me, and asked me to join him on the ground. He told me that years ago, he used to do the same thing, and went on to tell me about the canyon he went to. He described it as a dangerous but magic place, and that I would see the world differently if I came back. If? Must be for dramatic effect. When he finished, he invited me over to his home. The house was small, and though an open door in the back room, I could see it was filled with various old animal pelts. Coyotes and wolves mostly. He walked over and closed the door, then picked up and handed me an old map, and some written directions that seemed like he had been holding onto them for a long time. And then just walked away into the back room, closed the door behind him. It was late, and one of the families invited me to stay the night, which I gladly did. The next morning, as I prepared to leave, one of the old women came over to me with something in her hands, handed me a talisman, and simply said, "Dip your bullets in the white ash at the hottest part of the fire," and just walked away. September came. As I packed for my walkabout, I saw the talisman in a drawer, and something felt right about taking it with me. After a beautiful drive, I was very happy to find the Forest Service road marked on the old map to the entrance. The area was remote and overgrown, and tough to get in even with my Jeep, and took me much longer than expected, so I decided to make camp and start hike in the morning. After a few hours on the trail that looked like it had been forgotten, I came to a stream, and the entrance to a secret valley. It was a narrow crack in the tall cliffs with about 4 feet of running water gently through, but not too narrow for a kayak or a canoe. I hoisted my gear above my head and began to wade sideways through the chest-deep water. The crack in the cliff seemed to go on forever, but after almost 2 hours, I came to the place where it opened up into a small lake in an incredible valley surrounded by tall rock faces. This may have been the most remote place I'd ever been, in the sense that there was no sign that people had ever been here at all. No trash, no bullet casings, not even the evidence of campfires. My first night there was the quietest night I've ever spent wild. No birds, no frogs, not even crickets. But I didn't feel like I was alone there. In the morning after breakfast, I headed out on my first exploratory hike to explore my new home for the next couple of weeks. After being stalked by a mountain lion on a hike about 10 years ago, I made a point of now bringing a pistol with me when I'm out wilderness hiking. After some looking around, I found a narrow path that appeared to be a game trail that led up to the side of one of the cliffs, and towards what looked like caves from the canyon floor. I made my way up to them and came upon an entrance that was much larger than it appeared from below. I made some noise to alert any possible animals that I was there, and made my way inside. The cave was an expansive single chamber that went back a couple hundred feet. As I walked in, I inspected as much as I could see with my light, but there was no tracks of any kind in the dirt besides mine. So I decided I was alone in there and pushed on towards the rest of the cave. I came around the last bend of the cave and approached at the end. My headlamp panned across a large pile of bones, some animal, some human, and a very old-looking small candle sitting on a natural stone shelf. The first thing that scared me in as long as I can remember. But focusing my wits, I remembered that there was no other tracks in the cave and figured it was from a long time ago. I was still a little uneasy as I exited the cave. I was ready to go back to camp. As I came out into the light about 75 feet away, there was the largest wolf I'd ever seen that looked like it was coming down from standing on its hind legs. It dropped down to all fours on a rock and began staring at me, not growling or baring its teeth, just staring. I pulled in my .45 and shot two of the sides to scare it away, but it didn't even flinch. Not only have I never seen a wolf in this part of northern Arizona, but I've never seen a wild animal that did not at least flinch at the sound of a gun shot. We both stood there, staring at each other for a moment. I turned and set my backpack down to grab my binoculars, get a little closer, but when I turned back, the wolf was gone. I made my way cautiously down the path towards the camp. I have encountered wolves before, and it's not unusual. It's not one wolf you can see that should worry you. It's the ones you can't see. So I was extra cautious for the return trip back at camp. I made sure my gun was fully loaded, and I got my recurve bow strung just in case the wolves came back. I've seen plenty of predatory animals on my adventure. It's a part of being in the wilderness, so I wasn't too worried. Just prepared myself for the best I could and then went over to the lake to go fishing. Within 20 minutes, I caught two of the biggest brown trout I've ever caught. So I decided to stop fishing for the day and take a swim. Back at camp, I made a fire, cleaned my trout, and made dinner again, while the sun went down. As soon as the sun went down, all the life in the canyon seemed to go silent again. As I put my fire out and prepared for bed, I noticed there was a small flicker of light coming from the area where the cave I explored earlier up the cliffside. Which didn't make sense. It was a moonless night, and stars don't reflect that way. It couldn't have been the candle I had seen. It was too old and would not burn so bright. I decided to keep my gun close and try to get some sleep. I would investigate the cave the next day. I woke at sunrise. There was a haze along the ground throughout my whole canyon floor, but as the sun rose, it quickly disappeared, and the area came back to life. I made my breakfast, gathered my gun and bow, and headed back up towards the cave. When I reached the entrance, I saw there were still no tracks besides mine around the entrance, and decided to push up the hill further. Just a little further up, I came upon the entrance to another cave, much smaller than the first one. There was a small flat landing with a large, heavy, twisted juniper tree that, to my absolute surprise, had many small objects hanging from the thin, old-looking ropes tied to the branches. They were bones, but they were also old things that are definitely made by humans, and looked like they were old Native American artifacts. Thinking I might have found the spot where the old man I met on the reservation had stayed when he was there decades ago, I went into the cave. This cave was much different from the first one. Just a few feet in, I noticed the walls were covered in what looked like ceremonial cave paintings. As I pushed back further, the cave got dramatically colder, much colder than it should have been, and the walls were completely covered with the paintings the entire way. When I reached the back of the cave, I was not prepared for what I saw. There was what looked like an old altar made of wooden bones. As I looked up around, I saw a little before of the back cave. There was another shaft in the ceiling that went up, and on the ledge about 20 feet up, a small figure of what appeared to be a woman. She was small and pale, her face painted white, and wearing something like a crown made of woven branches, with two smaller antlers at the front. I stopped and stared for a few minutes. The figure did not move, so I assumed that it was mummified remains from a long time ago. Not wanting to disturb a burial site, I turned to walk back out of the cave, but I began to walk. I heard what sounded like a faint voice in an unknown ancient language. I instinctively looked back up towards the figure, but it was gone. Immediately terrified, I ran out of the cave as fast as I could get out, but my headlamp flickered and died. I made my way out, feeling along the wall to find my way, and the whole way there, I felt like something was right behind me. When I saw the first light from the cave entrance, I began to sprint towards it. Just before I made out, I looked back. There was nothing, so I slowed down, but I could still hear the faint voice, and the volume never changed. Once I got outside, all the bones and artifacts hanging from the tree were gone. I ran down the path as fast as I could, headed back to my campsite by the lake. Just as I reached the floor of the canyon, I noticed the large wolf at the tree line to my left, but this time it stayed standing upright on its hind legs. I stopped running, hoping to not initiate its predatory responses to chase me, and again, it stood there, staring at me. I reached my campsite safely and immediately began packing up. It was too late in the day to make it out before dark, and I did not want to make the hike out at night. With all that was going on, I moved out my tent so it would make it back up the canyon wall by the crack and the cliffside so I didn't have to worry about sneaking up behind me. I built my fire much larger and knew I wasn't going to get any sleep tonight. Just as the sun was going down, I began to hear noises coming from the trees and what I felt like was being hunted. Finally, in the last day, I saw the wolf slowly walking around where the path led out of the trees. He began to slowly walk towards me. This time I drew my gun and fired towards the creature, intending to hit it. And while I saw a couple hit the dirt around it, the several bullets hit it. Several rounds from a .45 will at least slow down anything I've ever encountered, but this giant wolf kept walking towards me like nothing had happened. I continued to fire at it until this inevitable click of an empty magazine. I reached down and fumbled around in my backpack, looting for my other magazines to reload. And as I lifted the talisman the old woman gave to me, it fell out on the ground. I picked it up and put it around my neck, and immediately remembered what she had told me. Dip your bullets in the white ash. So I looked around, but I didn't see my backup magazines. So I grabbed my bow, pulled an arrow, and I dipped the tip of the arrow in the hunting brook into the white ashes, drew and fired. I hit the creature in front of its right hip, and it let out a noise somewhere in between a growl and a person screaming that made my blood curdle. I can hear the noise in my head to this day. It immediately turned and ran back to the trees, and in the flicker of the firelight, I saw a small woman with an antler crown standing there waiting for it. They both retreated into the trees, and for the rest of the night, I could hear the same faint voice I heard in this cave. I spent the night outside my tent as awake as I have ever been, but no longer afraid, and at the dawn, finished packing up so I could get out of that canyon. The next spring, I went back to the small group of houses in the Nahio reservation I found the year before. I was wearing the talisman as a necklace, and the first person to greet me was the woman who would give it to me, and she ran up and gave me a big hug. "You heard me," was all she said. I asked the group about the man who had given me the map, as I almost desperate to talk to him about the experience I had so I could compare it to his own. They told me that it disappeared shortly after I had visited them the first time, and had not come back. Strangely, I tried to tell them what happened, and no one would let me tell the story. The oldest man there sat in the corner, kept mumbling the words, "Ye Nadalashu." We all once again sat and shared the stories of life in a meal. Before I left the next morning, I found the old woman who had given me the talisman and offered it back to her. She smiled, told me that I had a good heart, and then closed my hands around it, telling me to keep it to watch over my next walkabout. I went back out to that small village on the reservation several times over the next 10 years or so, till I moved to Oregon, but then they never let me tell them what happened. I never went back to the canyon. While curiosity sometimes gets the best of me, I don't think I ever will. Thank you for listening to my these Reddit stories, and I hope to make a part 2. Thanks for listening.